The Detroit Tigers win a ball game for Jim Price. We're going to talk about the game itself, some roster moves that have happened, and then honor the life and legacy of Jim Price all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Wednesday, August 9th, 2023. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnMLB or enter promo code LockedOnMLB for a free white tech hat with your order. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. All right. Well, the Detroit Tigers won a ball game 6-0 on Tuesday night. Very well played ball game. Very nice. I was at this game as well. Beautiful evening in the city of Detroit. But unfortunately, there's a cloud over the organization as it stands right now. It's been an emotional day. It's been an emotional day. We will talk about the game. We will break down the game like we always do. But the biggest news surrounding this organization right now is the passing of legendary Jim Price, who passed on Monday evening, and the club announced on Tuesday. Heartbreaking. The voice of the Detroit Tigers for an entire multiple generations, and has just been a phenomenal person on and off the field, and has represented the Detroit Tigers and the city of Detroit voluntarily for nearly his entire life. And that's something that not too many people really in the history of the world can say. So big hats off to Jim Price. We will talk about more the legacy that he leaves behind, but that will certainly last forever at the end of the show. But because it is the biggest news in the organization today, I felt the need to start and end the show by saying thank you so much to Jim Price, and may you forever rest in peace. Do got a ball game to talk about, and baseball is beautiful because Jim Price, the catcher, right? Those catchers, man, just the best. Always used to talk about the art of pitching. He used to say it all the time on air, the art of pitching. And the Tigers go out and led by Eduardo Rodriguez, who we will talk about in a second, go out there and pitch a shutout. Just for you, Jimmy. I was at this game. They had a nice set of flowers and his jersey at his seat in the booth for the entire stadium to see with the window open. Very nice. They had clips that they would play throughout the game when Miguel Cabrera came up. It was a Jim Price clip of him announcing Miguel Cabrera, the big guy. So, yeah, rest in peace, Jim Price. We'll talk about that at the end of the show as well. We have some roster moves to talk about as well that either just happened in the last 24 hours. There's actually been quite a few roster moves that have happened over the last couple of days. We have a waiver claim, and we have, Joey Wentz. We can start with that. Got optioned down to AAA Toledo. We said on yesterday's show, right? Like, if he stays up here, it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world to me, just because, like, you kind of have to prove that you can pitch in the majors. But his fastball, as we talked about yesterday, has just been so dreadful and basically unusable that a trip to the minors certainly is not the most surprising thing in the world to hear. So hopefully he can figure it out. Hopefully he can make some adjustments and just get even a halfway decent four-seam fastball under him. And I think that we could see him turn a corner and actually be somewhat productive at the major league level. But until that happens, that's not happening. So he gets optioned down. Alex Faedo is the person that will replace him, and he will start Wednesday's game against the Minnesota Twins. So we'll kind of preview the game a little bit more at the end of the show. But yeah, Joey Wentz sent down, Alex Faedo sent up. Sent up. I guess that's not really how that called up, we'll say. And yeah, Javi Baez still has not gone on the bereavement list. Um, there's some speculation, I guess, that when his family goes to Puerto Rico, he will go with them. That makes total sense to me if that is what ends up happening. But he is still, I mean, he started in this ball game, so he's still playing games and whatnot for the time being. But when his family goes home, he will likely go with them. So we'll see the timing of all that. And then, unfortunately, we found out immediately following the ball game that Jason Foley also had a grandparent pass away, and so he will go on the bereavement list effective immediately. I'm not sure what the corresponding move is going to be for that, but it sounds like he is going to take the rest of the week, and he will be back for the weekend series. Seems to be the plan right now. So we'll see. Obviously, he will take as much time as he needs. Very unfortunate for Javi and for Jason Foley. Obviously, thoughts and prayers with them and wishing them nothing but the best. And they will certainly, if they need time, they will get time, and they deserve time for stuff like that. So I think that's everything. Oh no, we have a waiver claim as well. Then we will be caught up finally as far as roster moves go. The Tigers claimed Isan Diaz. I believe that's how you pronounce his first name. If it's not, no disrespect intended. Obviously, he is kind of a utility infielder. Look, this is. I know a lot of people were kind of clowning on this edition. I understand the like. I mean, he has like a 170 career batting average at the major league level, right? So like I get it. I understand how that can be viewed as what like whatever weird or ridiculous or stupid, whatever. Um what all I'm gonna say is that like Scott Harris is clearly just going all to the wall with his dominate the strike zone philosophy. This dude draws walks at every level he has been at. Low levels of the minors, major leagues, he draws walks. He hasn't hit at every level. He's been a straight up poor major league hitter. He has not been very effective at the major league level at the plate, but he still walks. And position versatility and draw walks clearly is this dude's MO, this dude being Scott Harris. And so, look, the thing that, and we're not going to spend like the entire episode talking about Isan Diaz, but like, when you make waiver claims like this, it's not necessarily because, oh, I'm bringing this dude in and I expect him to be an impact player at the major league level. If everyone believed he was going to be an impact player at the major league level, he would be on a major league team, probably being an impact player. So my point is, when you take over a philosophy and you want to instill a mindset, you do that top to bottom across the entire organization. And that means that even the organizational depth guys that will never be effective major leaguers and will never get legitimate playing time in the major league, maybe never get any time in the major league for your organization, follow the same philosophy and the same mindset that you're instilling at the major league level. That's how organizational philosophies work. So I don't think that this is like, he's clearly not like the organization's savior, but I don't think that it's like the most ridiculous thing ever either. Like Zach Logue got DFA'd to make room for him. Like they have plenty of dudes on the 40 man that are expendable on the baseball field. So whatever. He's probably just going to be in Toledo for the next 2 months, and then we most likely will never hear from him again. That wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world to me. So let's talk about this ball game. 6-0 victory over the Minnesota Twins for your Detroit Tigers, highlighted by Eduardo Rodriguez pitching an absolute gem. We will talk about that gem and what made it a gem right after I tell y'all about our friends over at Bird Dogs. I'm actually wearing my Bird Dogs right now, believe it or not. Look, Bird Dogs are amazing. They make you look good, but they also feel good. They are stretch khaki shorts that are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. They do the exact same thing that Lululemon does, but they fit way better. And they're just way better than regular shorts. Regular shorts have that constricting like cotton. Bird Dogs have invented a cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki, but it stretches, so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. They're the best. I now have 3 pairs of shorts and 1 pair of like these like jogger sweatpants hybrid, all from Bird Dogs, as well as this awesome hat. Yeah, that's right. Go to birddogs.com/lockedonmlb or enter promo code lockedonmlb for a free white tech hat with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedonmlb or promo code lockedonmlb for a free white tech hat. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. I appreciate y'all for tuning in, making us your first listen every day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We'll be back tomorrow recapping Game 3 against the Minnesota Twins. We'll preview that one a little bit later on in the show. In a sad day for this organization, the Tigers go out and honor Jim Price with a 6-0 shutout victory. Eduardo Rodriguez was the starter in this ball game. He would end up going 7 innings, 4 hits, no earned runs, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts. His ERA on the season is now down to 2.75. I had a few people that were like, "Ha, look, you wanted him traded, and now he like pitched really well." He's been pitching well all year, man. It's not like he'd been pitching terribly, and I was like, "Get him out of here," and then like, "Oh no, now he's good." Like, this is par for the course. He's had a phenomenal season. He's had a career year. And Chris Castellani pointed this out after the game. This is becoming not only a reoccurring theme, but kind of like a selling point to free agent pitchers. Like Eduardo Rodriguez, best year of his career. Michael Lorenzen, best year of his career. Like we're starting to get legitimate resumes for what we've already known for years. And that's that Chris Fetter is absolutely incredible at his job, and that entire staff, Chris Fetter, Juan Nieves, Robin Lund, all 3 of them have done wonders in this organization, and just becomes more and more apparent. Just pretty much every day, to be honest with you. The amount of production that we have gotten out of some starting pitchers over the last couple of years should not be taken lightly. Should not be taken lightly. But Eduardo Rodriguez was great in this game because of command. I know he had 3 walks, which is a little out of character for him. But really, that was just like barely missing. Like he wasn't missing a ton really at all the entire game. And those 3 walks, those were barely missing. And it was also earlier on in the game. The last 2 or 3 innings, he barely had any traffic on the base paths. Just phenomenal. Was absolutely stellar. A barrel missing clinic, as Eduardo Rodriguez tends to do. And look, like I've said it a lot. I really tried to hammer home the point and not like get it misconstrued. Like this is a guy that I will always welcome in my rotation. He pitches the exact way that I think Scott Harris wants a pitcher to be. I think he's a perfect fit for this organization. And he's not going to opt in, so you can kick that theory to the curb. That's not going to happen. But if he opts out, the Tigers can give him a new contract or restructure the contract instead. And I think that is somewhat likely still. And that is something that if that happens, I'm not going to be upset. I still wanted him traded. I'm not going to be pissed that we have a guy of this caliber in our rotation for the next however many 2, 3, 4 years, whatever we end up giving him terms wise. Okay. Our priority should just be bats. That was my only point. The only point of my temper tantrum I threw on the trade deadline was that you had a good pitcher. You could have gotten hitting. You don't necessarily need pitching as badly as you desperately need hitting. That was the only point I was trying to make. There you go. 30 seconds summed up in like a 40-minute temper tantrum. So this was a great start, though. This was great. Again, barrel missing clinic, and that's just what he does. And as the outing went along, he got better, and he ended with over 100 pitches, and he's a workhorse. He's the man. And the fans were nice too. There wasn't any there were rumors that people are going to boo him when he goes out there. No, not a single person booed. I think he actually got a standing ovation when he walked off the field for the performance he had. So good on him. Good on Erod. And the last thing we'll end on with Erod is like as these zeros get more and more, that price tag He's going to get higher and higher, right? When you start looking ahead and you're like, oh, well, I kind of want Erod back. Look, he's had a lot of good starts. He's had a great year. I want him back. Well, these next 2 months, these last 8 starts that he has this year, if they look like today, let me tell you, a couple $1,000,000. That's too dramatic. Couple $1,000, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars being added on to that number with every start like this he has from here on out. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be one of the biggest storylines of this team this offseason is going to be what ends up happening with Erod. But a great start on Tuesday, August 8th. The lineup in this game will transition to the offense. The only really thing I want to talk about with the lineup is that Miguel Cabrera batted fourth. And, this season, we have 2 months left of Miguel Cabrera, right? Less than now. We got less than 2 months of the big fella. And so seeing him bat fourth at first, I've said this like 8 different times this year. I was like, wow, Miguel Cabrera fourth, really? And I was like, oh yeah, he has the 3rd highest batting average in this lineup. So fair enough. And like the reason I use batting average with him is because we know that he has no power left. And we also like he's not drawing walks at the clip that he used to back in his heyday either. And so it's pretty much just like he's a singles hitter at this point, but I'll be darned if he's not doing that really well. And like if it wasn't for the first 2 months of this season, him being absolutely horrific, right? I mean, he legitimately would be batting like 280. Like he's had an average over 300 for like well over 6 weeks at this point. Like dating back to like we're talking about like month, maybe even an S on the end of months of him having a pretty darn good batting average. So shout out to the big fella. 2 more hits in this game. The crowd loves it. Always a cool moment. I was at this game, like I said earlier, and seeing the crowd's reaction to Miguel Cabrera doing anything will never, ever, ever get old. And yeah, got about 6 or 7 weeks left of the big fella at Comerica Park. So be sure to get down there and enjoy it while we still can. But yeah, had a good game too, which is always nice. So that was really the only thing as the lineup went. Offensively, I mean, Kerry Carpenter with another great game. He is hitting the heck out of the ball. And like he went through that. It was like, 2.5 weeks, not a lot of power, still some singles, still some walks, but like not a lot of power. Now he's just like, and I mean, in this game, he didn't have a homer or anything, but like hitting the ball really hard. Like he hits I had really great seats, was fortunate enough to have really great seats to this game. Those are rockets. The sound, the crack of the bat, man, just like the most beautiful sound in the world, but just, I mean, he is really, really good at hitting a baseball, and it's awesome to see. So good to see him have another good performance. Riley Green, I want to talk about for a second. Only one for 4 sounds ridiculous, but he had 3 Ks. The one thing lately, he's been striking out a lot, and a lot of them are low curveballs. And I have no doubt that he will make an adjustment because that's what Riley Green does. Every complaint I have ever had about Riley Green in the batter's box, he has within the next couple, dating back to like him being in Double-A. I have voiced a complaint about something I want to see more of, and then within the next couple of weeks, he has adjusted and completely fixed. So I have no doubt that he will make that adjustment, but a lot of strikeouts over the last week and a half, and almost all of them at the expense of a curveball low late in the count. Something to keep an eye out there. Spencer Torkelson 0 for 4, 2 balls hit over 100 miles an hour, I want to say, exit velocity wise. Definitely at least one. I think it was 2 liners, but 0 for 4 with a strikeout, and had one really bad at bat, the strikeout. Yeah, I mean, his OPS down to 692. If you want to rank people whose like importance of the last 2 months of the season are for the Detroit Tigers, I think it's pretty much unanimous that Spencer Torkelson is going to be at the top of that list. Somebody else who's going to be very important, Akil Baddoo. Again, we have outfielders, corner outfielders especially, that are waiting in the wings in AAA. Parker Meadows and Justin Henry Malloy both play corner outfield. And if they're going to get call-ups, it's going to be at if they both get a call up, especially, but even if one of them does, it's likely going to have to be at the expense of an outfielder. And that conversation very easily a few weeks ago was Akil Badu. Now, over the last few days, has been hitting a lot better. I think it's very important for him to continue to hit because if he doesn't, he is going to get swapped with a Parker Meadows or with a Justin Henry Malloy. So very, very important for him. He's also like just objectively one of the most fun and exciting players in this entire organization when he is really feeling himself and is producing. So like just from a pure like I love you standpoint, I hope that he figures it out and keeps making those adjustments. But we'll see. September is also there's no more September call-ups where you get 15 more players. I think they expand 2 players now. So there is a world in which they can both kind of, coexist, but I would imagine that one of those spots is going to go to a pitcher as well when they expand. So we'll see what happens. But Akil Badu, it would be very, very important for Akil Badu to continue producing. Jake Rogers with a home run in this ball game. Good to see. OPS up to 740. Zach McKinstry's 2 strikeouts, both breaking balls low and in. Not surprising. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. Shout out Jake Rogers. I think when you're talking about the core of this team moving forward, Jake Rogers has played his way into being part of that conversation, which is nice because I don't think that's a very long list at the present moment with this major league team, at least. Okay, let's talk. Let's finish up this game. We got a bullpen to go over, and we'll preview game 3 a little bit, and then we will honor the legacy of Jim Price. But first, I got to tell y'all about our friends over at Sleeper. If you think that Jake Rogers can hit another home run tomorrow against the Minnesota Twins, head over to Sleeper. Because it is the best in the business for daily fantasy games. And you can swing for the fences, like Jake Rogers, with up to 100 times your payout. All you have to do is choose 2 or more players that you like and select their stat categories more or less, like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. And if you pick right, you can win big. I've used the Sleeper for a long time on my just like regular fantasy leagues, fantasy football, fantasy baseball. Now they're in the daily fantasy game, which is super, super cool. And the app is very, very easy, user-friendly, very unique, but easy layout to follow. And so I highly recommend, if that's your thing, to go check out Sleeper. Use promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. The bullpen, pretty quick conversation today with this one. Jose Cisnero, 1 inning, 1 hit, no earned runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts. Still have no clue why he's on this baseball team. Like, 0 clue. There's no way you will convince me that a competitor wouldn't have wanted to add for, again, like a low price. Not that we would have gotten some top prospect for him, but golly. I don't know why he's here, but I'll gladly take a good performance. His fastball had a lot of life on it in this one. And now that he's not traded, maybe they work out like another 1-year deal, depending on how he finishes out the season. We'll see. But he looked really good in this one. His fastball had a lot of life on it, which early in the season was kind of a problem for him. So glad to see. And then Jason Foley, 1 inning, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, and a strikeout. Good to see him. He had much better command in this outing, and that's the first time I've been able to say that about an outing of his for a while. And then, yeah, without saying, he has a lot bigger stuff going on at home, and will rejoin the team this weekend. We obviously will welcome him back with open arms. Him and Javi both, whatever they're going through. Wish them nothing but the best. Sending our thoughts and prayers to them. So good outing though. Good outing by Jason Foley. Previewing game 3 really quickly. Bailey Ober against Alex Faedo. We talked about Alex Faedo getting called up. This was such a good win, and game 1 was such a terrible loss. You just like don't know. And it used to be like, oh, if Erod or Lorenzen are on the mound, then this might be a decent day for the Tigers. Now it's if Erod or now that Scooble's healthy, Scooble are on the mound. You got a decent chance to put together a decently competitive ball game. Alex Faedo has had a heck of a career. It's been a roller coaster. Starter, reliever, starter again, reliever again. Has almost a 6 ERA this season. Has shown flashes though of like legitimate stuff and has put together good starts. not just good appearances. So we'll see what we get out of Alex Faedo. But again, you want to talk about last 2 months of the season. Um, I think there's still a lot to play for here, and Alex Faedo is certainly on that list as well. Um, okay, that's everything as far as the game goes. We're gonna take the end of the show here and honor the life and legacy of Jim Price. An emotional day, a sad day, um, a really emotional day for this organization. It's it's we can just call it what it is, man. It sucked. It's really sucked. I try to get through this as as best I can, but this really hits you hard. This is not just news you see and you go, "Oh, that's too bad," and then move on. This is the voice half of a voice of an entire generation. I'm in my mid 20s, right? Jim Price took over as the color commentator sitting next to Ernie Harwell the year I was born. I literally do not know any other color commentator on the radio other than Jim Price. And again, I'm not like 12, right? Like this is a substantial part of this fan base. Only ever has heard this man as the color commentator on the radio. Not to mention all the people older than me who 90%, 80%, 70% of their lives, half of their lives, Jim Price was a constant. On April 7th, 1967, the Detroit Tigers purchased Jim Price from the Pittsburgh Pirates, who had only ever played in the minor leagues. He made his major league debut with the Detroit Tigers in 1967, and he would only ever play Major League Baseball for the Detroit Tigers. He is a World Series champion, and don't you ever forget it. And if you want to talk about men or people, I should say, that just dedicate their lives to an organization, there are few examples in the history of the world better than Jim Price and the Detroit Tigers. This sucks. This has been a super emotional day for a lot of people. And he was, again, the voice of this team. So many memories. You're listening to the Tigers on the radio in the car. Dan Dickerson and Jim Price, man. I used to have this little wind-up camping radio that I used to carry around when I was a kid. And I have so many memories. Cranking the radio up so that it had enough power to turn on and have enough power to get me through, like 3 or 4 innings, then I have to do it again. And those memories are hand in hand with Jim Price's voice. And this is not just the loss of a broadcaster. This is the loss of a man that, again, was injected into this entire community. Everybody knows Jim Price. Everybody knows the Yellow Hammer. Right? The Jim-isms, as Dan Dickerson likes to call them. In the broadcast booth today, by the way, he used Yellow Hammer one last time and said that he would never use the phrase again, and it would be retired from the booth. Like I said earlier in the show, they had flowers and his jersey on his chair in the broadcast booth, facing out for the whole stadium to see. It's a sad day, and he certainly deserves more than just one day of appreciation. I hope that they really take these last 2 months in a season that the Tigers aren't gonna, be in the postseason or anything by the end of it, and and truly honor his legacy beyond just Tuesday, because golly, does he deserve it? Did a lot of great things off the field too. Had a foundation, really um, was vital to shining light on children with autism. Just a man that will certainly be missed, and a legacy that will certainly live on as long as the Detroit Tigers are around. And again, that's there's always going to be new players. There's always going to be turnover within an organization, right? At some point, there's maybe even an ownership change, and uh, you know things happen, and a lot of personnel come and go over the years. But Jim Price is someone who will certainly never fall through the cracks of history when talking about the history of the Detroit Tigers. And if you are as passionate about this team and this city as I am, and as so many people are in this town, that this is um, this is very impactful and a very, very sad day. Rest in peace, Jim Price. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow, recapping game 3 of this series. We already talked about the pitching matchup. We will, we'll be back tomorrow. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I will catch y'all tomorrow. Rest in peace, Jim Price.